All right, good afternoon and welcome to the Middle East Forum's webinar and podcast Israel Insider this week with Alex Selsky. I'm Stacey Roman and I'll be moderating this discussion today. We're pleased to have Alex Selsky, a senior advisor to MEF's Israel Victory Project and lecturer at Hadassah Academic College, join us this week to update us on all the events going on in Israel. Mr. Selsky will be giving us a briefing on current Israeli affairs for 15 minutes, then open it up for questions. Should you wish to ask a question, please use the Q&A box located at the bottom of your screen to type your question. And with that, I will turn the discussion over to Mr. Alex Selsky.
Thank you, Stacey. Good evening to everyone from Jerusalem. And as Stacey noted correctly, we do have things going on in Israel this week, in these very days, and these very hours. So I want to give you the background in order to understand the existing situation, a background from the previous week. Many things happened during this week, during these days. Exactly on last Wednesday, when you actually had the previous Israel Insider webinar, we had a day with 104 rockets and missiles and mortars falling from Gaza on Israeli, fired from Gaza at Israeli citizens, and the Israel Defense Forces reacted by few very precise attacks within Gaza at night, but it looked and it was seen by the public and by part of the right-wing government as a weak response. And that was in addition to, if you definitely remember, all the feeling that Israel is getting weaker and that our enemies succeed to unite against us. And a few weeks ago, definitely, you might remember that Israel had fired 24, if I remember correct, rockets from Lebanon by Hamas. And all this feeling during the last few weeks, and in addition, on the background of the very deep split within the Israeli society that we spoke about, gave the feeling to Israelis that, you know, that our split, that our debate over the domestic political issues give opportunity to our enemies to attack us. And last week it was a situation when I think Israel is more than ever before felt that we don't react, that we're weak, and that the attacks are coming and we don't react. Now, when it happened on Friday, the Otzma Yehudit party head by Itamar Ben-Gvir, Israel Jewish Power, in translation to English, they announced that they actually boycott the voting of the coalition in the Knesset, and they boycott the cabinet meeting that takes place every Sunday. And Itamar Ben-Gvir and his ministers didn't attend the Sunday cabinet meeting and threatened that they will not support the government in the votings in the Knesset. And on this Tuesday night, between Monday and Tuesday, on 2 a.m. to 20 a.m. to be precise, at night, Israel was surprised by a very successful attack by Israel, which killed, assassinated three leaders of Islamic Jihad in Gaza, and that was actually understood as a very precise reaction. And the operation called Shield and Arrow was launched, and it's practically is still going on, even though about 3 hours already back, we had the announcement from Egypt that there is a ceasefire. But after the ceasefire, which often happens, the Islamic Jihad fired even further rockets into Tel Aviv, showing that they want to show that the last word is theirs. So this operation of 2 days, which Israel sees as very successful, is coming to an end. Now, what is happening now is, and the title of our talk today is, what is happening with the stability of this government? And I do suppose that this title was formulated before the operation was launched on, apparently was formulated on Sunday. So today the answer is much clearer. First of all, we see a fight now between Netanyahu and Ben Gvir, between Likud and Otzma Yehudit, over the credit for the operation. Netanyahu says that the operation was planned on last Friday, before the boycott that was announced by Otzma Yehudit, meaning that Ben Gvir didn't influence the decision to launch this operation, but IDF, instructed by the Prime Minister and by the Minister of Defense, just did it, choosing the right timing for the attack, and no connection to the boycott and the pressure from Ben Gvir. On the other side, Ben Gvir and his party claim that what caused the operation is their boycott, that if they would have been boycotting and pressing the government and Netanyahu, this operation would never been launched. I think that this fight for credit we'll see it for many days and months and maybe even years to come. At the moment, everybody speaks about the fact that this operation was actually the ladder that gave the opportunity for Otzma Yehudit to come down from the high tree that they climbed on, and this situation actually provides an opportunity for each parties, for Likud and Otzma Yehudit, to come back into stable cooperation. So now everybody speaks, and again, each one claims that he did the right thing and he was not pressed, and he's leading the situation. But the result is that we do have, as a result of the operation, stable cooperation. Now, also a very interesting thing was to see a very good cooperation between the Prime Minister and the Minister of Defense, Yoav Gallant, which I remind you that his statement about the risk and the damage that the judicial reform may cause to the Israeli security, and after this statement, the Prime Minister announced about firing the Minister of Defense. That caused the biggest peak of the demonstrations against the government, and now we saw that they kind of came together, and we saw within the press conferences during the operation that they at least show a very good cooperation. So we do see stability. Also, something that I remind you that we spoke about a couple of weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, when I spoke to you. We are in May. We are in May 10th already, meaning that we are a week and a half within the summer session of the Knesset. I remind you that the Knesset must pass the budget until the end of May. And if it doesn't pass the budget, so the government will be automatically falling. And it means that they must now, if they want to survive, they must now cooperate to pass the budget. And this operation, again, provides them the opportunity to work together. I just want to say that, many people in Israel criticize that the need in security operation for this cooperation, claiming that, we don't want to think that you initiate an operation, risking lives of Israeli citizens to cooperate. But first of all, I do believe, and even Haaretz, the far left newspaper that usually criticizes Netanyahu on every step, even they said that we don't think that Netanyahu uses security issues and security considerations for political for political steps. But first of all, let's all believe that this is the issue, and I think we definitely can and must believe that this is the case, and it provides really the opportunity for everyone now to cooperate, and they must cooperate, and they must put aside the reform to pass the budget. However, in the beginning, and I'm going again back to remind you that in the beginning, the first day of the summer session of the Knesset, we had a huge demonstration of the right wing supporting the reform, where Yariv Levin announced that there is no stopping and there is no compromise on the reform, and the reform will be passed fully, which showed to many people that there is no really negotiations on what we called wide support and wide agreement within the Israeli society over the reform. So again, I think we will see this stable cooperation until the end of May to pass the budget, and definitely following the successful operation. But in June, we'll see again the fight over the reform. And also, I want to say that, also everybody understands that this operation, even though seems to be successful, but again and again, Israel, mowing the grass, doing again a round in Gaza without solving the real problem of the threats of thousands of rockets on Israeli citizens from Gaza. And here I'm proud that we the Middle East Forum and IVP, we do have some paper that will come soon, that we initiate a policy change in this issue. But again, people see and understand that this operation didn't really solve. It's again the same way the problem of the threat from Gaza was not solved. And if this policy will just continue, so the next operation and the next firing of rockets is just a matter of time, even though we saw that Hamas didn't join the Islamic Jihad for many reasons, and let's hope that that they are deterred by Israel. And by the way, we were ready for much wider operation and war from many other fronts, including Lebanon and Judea and Samaria, and it didn't happen. It also shows that, even though our enemies speak a lot, they are deterred, but not enough, apparently. They still fire, and one rocket fired on Israeli children and citizens is too much. Well, I think that we covered everything exactly in time. It's 10:15, so Stacy, please, if you can help me with the questions. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for that overview. So the first question from Michael Bass, was there any damage in Tel Aviv from the rockets?
No, the only damage so far was in two cases. One case was direct, first of all, above 90% success again of the Iron Dome, which is a extremely successful technology, which from one hand gives us security, but from other hands, it gives us the possibility not to attack and think that we are safe, and giving the terror organizations within Gaza a possibility, to strengthen and continue the threat. So again, the success of Iron Dome was very high. So full majority of the rockets that were fired and directed on the cities, because many of them, they fall in the sea and in open spaces, which Iron Dome don't fire. So yes, but only two rockets after all reached ground within the cities. One in Sderot, falling into a yard of a house, but it was empty, so nobody was hurt. And another rocket in also in Ashkelon, if I remember correctly, but also no injuries, no casualties. The only injuries were, and by the way, the majority of injuries within the Israeli civilian population always are from running fast into the shelter, because people, they run, they're very pressed, and they run, and they hurt themselves from the running, and 8 people were hospitalized in Beersheba hospital from hurting themselves from the running, not from the rockets. And I am a reserve officer, major officer within the home front command, and I'm serving within the operations, giving the instructions to the civilians, and we see that the Israeli civilians really know how to behave, and they do act by the instruction, and that saves lives. So no casualties, no really damage, no really injuries, and that, to say simply, that pisses off our enemies. That's they fire rockets and they don't succeed to hurt us, really, even though the very firing of rockets still, I believe, is unacceptable.
Absolutely. Thank goodness there were no casualties there. So with the newfound stability, is it likely that the budget will pass?
I think the easy answer, yes. I do believe it will pass. I think they're ready. They already passed it in the first reading before the break. I don't see a reason now, again, now, yes, in 10 18, May 10th. In Israel, everything can change, in a blink of an eye. So I don't see in this situation that something can cause the budget not to pass if they put aside the judicial reform, and they will do, they must do it.
Thank you. An anonymous attendee asks, is Gantz taking any position on the budget and the retaliation for the rockets?
Again, I don't understand the question. What meaning what? If
Is Gantz taking any position?
Gantz.
Yes.
Well, Gantz, first of all, Gantz's position is overall, his status is rising. He's a rising star. He in all the last polls during the last, I think, month, he's skyrocketing above Likud. I think the last poll gave him 31 mandate, while Likud had 25, and Yesh Atid with Yair Lapid, I think they fell until 17 even. And that's why Gantz was all the time supporting the negotiation over the reform. Now, during the operation, Gantz and Lapid both gave, provided support. It's usually happening. We see in every operation usually that opposition, whoever it is, backs the coalition in operations against terror, and then they fight after it finishes, the political fight. But until now, and we're still within the operation, kind of. I think tomorrow we will see, starting fighting the political fights, and already. Look, if you see the press conference of the prime minister saying that, we damaged the Islamic Jihad more than any operation before. You'll see already tomorrow, Yesh Atid will say that, no, our operation in August against the Islamic Jihad, that was the really big. We'll see it tomorrow. Gantz so far overall acting very, very cautious, without some extreme statement, calling for cooperation, and it works for him very well, and he's skyrocketing up. Let's see what will be next, but I think that it's reasonable to predict that he will continue this line. It works very well for him. So let's see. I'm sure within a couple of days we'll see new polls, as a result of the operation. Likud will definitely somehow will go up, and it will be really interesting to see what Otzma Yehudit gets, stating that it's their operation and their success, and what Yesh Atid and Gantz will get. So we'll see it in a few days. You will definitely have the analysis in the next Israel Insider webinar next week.
Well, we're looking forward to that. Carrie Hillebrand asks, why can't Israel, perhaps with U.S. diplomatic assistance, pressure Egypt to realistically choke off Hamas and PIJ weapons smuggling?
Very good question. We don't have enough time to answer, but I'll try to answer very fast. And as I told you, we have, the Middle East Forum and the Israel Victory Project. We have a big work, very big policy paper about this issue. But to answer very briefly, Israel during the last 15 years had a policy of having Hamas in Gaza, not eliminating it, not throwing it off, and by that, providing split within the national Palestinian movement, delegitimizing this movement in the international political arena because Hamas is considered a terror organization. But the problem is that Hamas raised the head too much. So we believe that we cannot afford that Hamas will continue threatening as it does. And I think that we're too late, and it's too late, and we must act now to eliminate this threat. Stay tuned. We will have lots to say about this issue in the next weeks, including a publication of a paper in Middle East Quarterly and here in Israel. We have much work on this issue, and please stay tuned. And we hope and we're sure that we will influence a shift in this policy.
That sounds very promising. Thank you. Stuart Broad asked, I understand that for the first time, the medium-range David Sling missile intercepted a Palestinian missile over Tel Aviv at a higher altitude than the Iron Dome operates. Is this accurate?
I don't know, and I wouldn't like to go into technology of what works and what doesn't, and how it works and how it doesn't.
All right, sounds good. So Larry White asks, how do you see the Turkish election on the 14th of May affecting Israel?
Well, it definitely will affect Israel, but to understand, I think the effect, we should see the result of the elections. You definitely know and see that Turkey is a very, very active and very important actor in the Middle East, and we had a very tense relationship with Turkey for many years, and now we have kind of a spring in our relationships. So I cannot say what will be the influence, because I cannot say what will be the result. We see and follow and analyze, and we see that the Erdogan's regime is not safe or not promised. But let's see results. All of us were so smart in so many elections here in the States and other countries. So let's see the results and then analyze. That's what I think. And I don't also have enough knowledge about the political situation in Turkey to try to predict. And overall, I think the predictions, is not good business in the Middle East. Look, who could think that Syria, just this week, Syria was invited to be back into the Arab League? This is a development that, I don't think that someone could predict a year ago that, and they will do that by invitation from Saudis who have a spring in cooperation and relationship with Iran under the umbrella of China. Many things happened that we didn't predict. So let's see.
Thank you. Barak Korkmaz asks, what is your point about the relation between occupation and terrorism? I believe asking you to expand on that.
It's a very wide question. I'm trying to understand what exactly the question means, meaning that maybe I don't remember the name, the person that asks means that the occupation causes terrorism. Well, we can definitely have a little course in Israeli history and to remind people that, none of the wars that caused the occupation were caused by Israel. We always defended ourselves. And all those who claim that the terror is caused by a so-called occupation is invited to read the history of the Arab terror before 67 and before 48. It started in 19 when Jews just came and built few little villages and came to Jerusalem, which by all the monotheistic religions that, by the way, came from Judaism, is written that it's Jewish city and the Jews are original people from Jerusalem. And when, few thousand of Jews or few tens of thousands of Jews came in the beginning of 20th century, and Arabs, by the way, no Palestinians then, Arabs living in Mandate or Ottoman Empire, started the terror. So all those who think that the terror is because we sit, in our historic lands, first of all, we don't seek in Gaza. We left Gaza. I remind you all, we left Gaza 18 years ago. There is no one Israeli soldier in Gaza. So why don't not taking this money in building hospitals? They don't do that. What they do, they fire rockets on us. Build whatever you want in Gaza. It's very easy to blame Jews on everything when you have 70% poverty or 60% whatever. I don't remember all the data, but poverty. So yes, definitely. It's the Jews. Build whatever you want to build. You receive billions of dollars from all the world. You don't want to build. You want to fight, because what you get money for is fighting Israel. That will not work. We will win.
Thank you so much for that. Before we go, let's end on a little bit of a lighter note. I hear Netanyahu is praising the new grocery store that's opening up about 50 shops to do the competitive pricing. So I know that a lot that's been on the average Israeli's mind has been the cost of living increasing. So how are people taking that on the streets there?
Well, it was open exactly on the day of launching the operation. So let's end with the operation. I think that definitely, first of all, grocery stores. If I remember right, the American terminology, grocery store is something small. Okay, I understand that Israel, for Americans, everything is small, but it's not about small grocery stores. It's about big supermarkets. Okay, we're small, but we're still 9 million people. Even though it's not so big, but it's big enough. So it's an issue. It's an issue. Listen, the prices are just skyrocketing. Like you pay and you already don't. You don't follow. You just see the prices go up and you already don't even negotiate, because you cannot even understand like how come that this is 15%, this is, even though we see that the overall overall claiming that the prices didn't go too much up. But yes, that's the main issue that hurts Israelis. And believe me, after the operation will be over, 90% of the talk will be about the prices and not about rockets.
All right, well, thank you so much. We've come to the close of our webinar and podcast. Alex, thank you for taking time to update us this week, and I hope you get some sleep.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Have a good time.
You too. For our viewers and listeners, please join us Friday at 1 p.m. Eastern for a webinar with Jordan Cope discussing how effective are the Middle East state-run media. Thank you all for joining us, and I hope you have a wonderful day.